Refugees are welcome here! Refugees are welcome here! Refugees are welcome here!
Police are arming up.
Refugees are welcome here! Refugees are welcome here! Refugees are welcome here!
Refugees are welcome here.
Refugees are welcome here! Refugees are welcome here! Refugees are welcome here! Refugees are welcome here!
Black and white, unite and fight! Smash the FLA! Black and white, unite and fight!
Smash the FLA!
Black and white, unite and fight!
Smash the FLA!
Black and white, unite and
That's your argument. Okay, then I'm going to ask, I'm pretty certain that you're allowed to speak, but is there knowledge? So apparently Ali Dawa is complaining about not being let in, even though he doesn't believe in his speech, and we do respect his right, but I want to find out what is going on, and if he's just playing a victim right now, let me find out. Rahim, do you know why Ali Dawa just came to me and he's saying we're not allowing him in? Is that true? Is he not going to speak? What happened?
Tommy said no.
Okay. Basically because he doesn't... Ali Dawa?
I told him I'll deliver his speech.
Oh, you'll deliver his speech. Perfect. So we have somebody who will deliver his speech. Rahim, can you just say to the camera that you will deliver his speech?
Look, Ali Dawa, the reason... so Ali Dawa was originally invited here. The reason that he's not being allowed in is he refused to actually sit down and talk with us. He doesn't want to shake Shazia Hobbs' hand because she's a woman. So I've said to him, in the interest of free speech, I will deliver his speech. How about that?
Awesome. Exactly, because we have security requirements. We can't just let him in the freaking backstage without actually talking to him. So he's saying that nobody even wants to deliver his speech. Yes, we do. Ali, Rahim will deliver your speech.
Why am I not allowed to?
Because you haven't sat down with them and had a conversation about security.
Nobody invited me.
Yes, they did.
No one.
Yes, they did. I was there when they did.
They said to me, come, and I didn't come. Nobody said to me, come, we're going to have a security issue.
Yeah,
Nobody said this to me. Just tell Tommy he's a hypocrite.
No, absolutely not.
You defended my right, yeah?
But everybody thinks you have a right, but you didn't come down and talk to people about this event.
What's your name?
Susanna.
Lady Susanna, yeah? I saw on Twitter, you even defended my right when people were saying, why
But everybody defends, yes. Give us this speech, give me this speech, and we're going to present.
What I'm going to do is...
Stop playing the victim. Ali, no, you seriously are. We are going to deliver your speech.
I can believe that if you give her the speech, she'll read it out. Hear me out. Look. Hear me out, yeah? I'm saying, look, am I playing the victim here? I came here, I was invited. You're not
You
allowed to
didn't
speak,
have a
and I'm
discussion
playing-
about... We
and I'm
all
playing-
have to talk
and I'm
about
playing-
security issues. This is a requirement that everyone has to go through.
Come on.
We will respect your
Come on.
free speech
Come
by
on.
delivering
Look,
your speech.
What do you mean by freedom? I mean, security issues.
Well, obviously, not everyone is being allowed in.
I don't want to be allowed in. I'm just saying, let me go, do my speech, and come back out. Sorry.
You didn't. That's the thing. When you're going to be on stage, there is a danger that Antifa might throw something. We don't know what's going to happen.
No.
You have this.
I'm happy
Look,
with it. Look, my
but
security...
it doesn't matter. This is procedure.
Listen.
But listen, we will deliver the speech. But we will deliver the speech. Trust me.
I
Take a photo of your speech.
I'm not going to let Rahim, who's drunk, he's drunk, give my speech, yeah? The least, if they're not going to allow me to talk, I'm going to wait, I'm going to try to get them to reason with them. If they don't, I'm going to pick somebody to give my speech. I don't want Rahim, I'll pick myself. I'll pick who I want to give my speech, and they can give my speech.
So
And you know what?
But you can't give us. You can't just be like, oh, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do. We invited you because we respect your freedom. But
you respect my freedom, but you stop my freedom.
no, we're not stopping your freedom. We have regulations that you have to.
I genuinely cannot believe.
And I cannot believe that you're saying that regulations don't matter.
Yeah.
This event is respecting your freedom of speech because we want
Okay,
you.
can I kindly pick the person who wants to give my speech? Because Rahim is drunk.
Try, okay. Who do
Okay,
you want?
Tommy Robinson.
You want Tommy Robinson?
Tommy, you're going to
deliver
give me
it?
my speech.
I'm
If
gonna
he
talk
does-
to Tommy, but
Okay,
you
go on,
can't.
okay, go on.
You can't just hold a gun to somebody's head and be like, you do this, you do that. But we have given you an
I
option.
want Tommy to show.
No, that has nothing to do with him defending your freedom of speech. I will ask him, but Rahim offered, so you can't just hold a gun to somebody's head and be like, I'm deciding this, I'm deciding it, you know. You're not in control. I will. Okay, guys? retweet this stream because it's pretty interesting what is going on. Let me talk to Tommy Robbins and ask, but obviously
All
Ali
over
Dawa
it,
is not going
thanks.
to hold a gun to people's heads and be like, I decide who's going to speak. Let me find Tommy. Do you know where Tommy is? Have you seen Tommy?
I mean, I don't know what you think about this, but
Sorry.
I don't understand. I've not heard a good reason for him not getting on that stage yet.
Kaylin, this is really
apart
important.
from Tommy said.
Ali Dawa is basically saying that he wants Tommy Robinson to deliver his speech.
That's what I just said, you know, it's positive. It's good to get them in.
English disco.
My background is
Good afternoon, London. I've been looking at something that's been happening behind us, and I think somebody just turned up the heat. It's a sunny day, and the temperature's getting turned up politically as well, and that's why we're here. To solve written 70 years ago, and later on today, first line of this. You've got the words to change a nation, but you're biting your tongue. We're not going to bite our tongues. We're not going to be silenced anymore. See, we are the silence, and the people that tried to close us down earlier on, the people that tried to silence us, they are fascists because they hate freedom of speech, and we are patriots because we love freedom of speech. I walked down with thousands of us there, and we had a banner, and our banner says this: we are here to defend your freedom of speech, and the dear Veterans Against Terrorism are here to defend your freedom of speech, and here we stand. There was a 78-year-old minister of religion, and he preached a sermon that was very critical of the Islamic religion. Gentlemen, this man said this. He said Islam is heathen. He says Islam is satanic. He said Islam is a religion spawned in hell. Friends, that's speech, and that man had the right to say it. That man was dragged before the courts. He was 78 years old, suffering from cancer. I joined to defend your right. Stand here and defend your freedom. I would have died for freedom of speech. I am for freedom of speech today. And more than that, when I look into your faces, I see that you're willing to die for free speech as well. We have a motto in the Veterans. It goes like this. If you're attacked by terrorists, you don't run. You don't hide. And you don't tell. You stand. You fight. And you protect. And today we're standing for freedom of speech. We're fighting for freedom of speech. And we're protecting freedom of speech. We will never be defeated. Thank you very much.
Yes, London! Hey! Free speech! Funny one! We all want to be free to say what we want to say when we want to say it! But not everyone understands that. I don't realise it works both ways. You can't preach a way of life or an ideology and inquire about it when someone disagrees with you. You've got to man up! It's all just a bit closer. It's like whipping up a storm and then moaning when it rains. And that ain't the way we roll. Now, we haven't got agreed on everything. That's what makes it fun, disagreeing. How do you expect to stop a moron if you and I don't want to speak? It keeps the dickheads at bay. Just take Andy Dower as a prime example. Yes, please. We just have a little look what political correctness is doing to the comedy scene, to the media, to the and it's like they wouldn't have a laugh anymore. You feel offending someone. Comedians no longer know where to draw the line. Back in the day, there weren't a line. You could laugh and joke about what you liked. Sexuality, weight, race, you name it. If you found something funny to say about it, you could say it. Bear with me. My first time doing this shit. I like it! So we were free to say what we wanted to say back in the day without offending people. And then we have this generation of snowflakes on the board. The easily offended. The top-notch skinny jean, tampon wearing, brigade of wet wipes, the pull the victim card to keep you quiet every single time when the vote doesn't go their way. And as it stands, we are allowing it. I just want to be clear, right? It doesn't matter whether you're left, right, in the middle, or completely confused, like Diane Abbott. Yes! It's not about what wing you're on today. It's about collaborating and putting together. Remembering we're on the same team and fighting for the same thing. The freedom of speech so we can say what we want to say. And I'm somewhere in the middle, believe it or not. You don't have to be right-wing to criticise militant Islam. You just need your moral compass in check and actually give a shit. And you also don't have to be afraid about speaking up against Islam. It's only a religion. So what? Most think it, few say it, because the social media giants, be it Twitter, Facebook and the rest of them, they're boxing us in and keeping us quiet, and they're leading us to believe that it's wrong to speak up against people's religions. In particular, the barbaric one. Now, I've been cracking jokes on social media for the last 3 years, and I have seen it firsthand. Not all jokes. One bad word about Islam and you're banned. Then they ban you helicopters for me. And then after you've been banned twice, they deactivate your account. And here's the deal. We should be free to speak about religion. Any religion. I don't see Twitter putting people's accounts for cracking Jesus jokes. I don't see Twitter banning people for lambasting Jehovah, Moses, or anyone else. But you say one bad word about Muhammad and they sit you on the naughty step for 7 days, then 30 days, and then they deactivate your account for life. People use those platforms to promote their business and earn a living. Freedom of speech. Where in the name of Muhammad's trousers has it gone? And why are all reverts ginger? Listen, there's other ways of getting back at your parents without making yourself look like a complete prick. You don't grow a great big beard down to your chest if you're ginger. No self-respecting ginger man does that. They wet shave and pretend they're blonde. Can you imagine what I'd be like working at Twitter HQ? And the boss tells you that you've got to deactivate somebody's account because they've criticised Islam the day after a terror attack. You think it's a practical joke, wouldn't you? You think Jeremy Beadle was just about to pop out in a closet with a camera crew and put you on the telly? It's a world gone mad. If you speak up, serious for a minute, if you speak up about radical behaviour and Muslims take offence to your words, too bad. That is the Muslims' problem, not yours. And if they don't like it, they can blame Islam. You can't be expected to be part of an ideology that promotes violence and not be challenged. It's as simple as that. And sure, there's a lot of peaceful verses and passages in the Quran, but there's a lot of hatred too. And here's the thing: you can't expect people to find it peaceful. Sorry. Here's an example. It's like saving 99 lives and murdering one, but wanting to be remembered as a lifesaver. It's not how it works. It's like making love to 99 women. Breaking one, you don't get remembered as a peaceful romantic. You get remembered as a murdering rapist. Now, I'm well aware that I disrespected Islam by associating them with ginger people. But I'm not anti-Muslim. I'm anti-Islam. I'll tell you why. I think a lot of Muslims are prisoners of Islam, captivated by that filthy cult. There must be loads of them. Think about it. Born into it, take the peaceful parts, ignore the rest, go about their day, ignore the rest. Now are you telling me that there is not a woman right now in Dubai, sweltering in the midday sun, baking in her burqa, that doesn't want to whip it off, get her tits out and run along the beach? Of course there is. Everybody wants to get their tits out. And what about the gay Muslims? Woo! What about the gay Muslims? What about the gay Muslims that have to sit in silence in fear of what may happen to them? What about them? If a man wants to swing from dick to dick, he should be free to do so, regardless of his religion. But they can't, can they? Sleeping with a goat is fair game. But sleeping with another man that you love is a crime and punishable by death in some parts. Totally outrageous. They're not free to think, let alone speak. They are prisoners of Islam. But we're not. And we should be free to discuss it without fear of consequence. We should be free to discuss it without fear of losing your job. You shouldn't fear speaking about Islam in fear of being judged for being branded far right. What is that bollocks all about? Now let this sink in. How are we supposed to spread love if we're not allowed to oppose hate? Antifa. Oh! Have you seen them jockstraps today? They should be thanking us. They should be thanking us. Fancy claiming to be anti-fascist and storming a free speech event. That's not ironic, that's moronic. And freedom of speech works both ways, right? Life's about laughter, and who am I to take the cream out of someone's butt? If someone finds it funny to mock the short, fat, bald, ugly man, who am I to put their laughter before my offence? Now, I know, I've got a mirror, I know that I look like a scrotum, but I'm not going to stop crying about it. And if I don't mind people mocking my scrotum, why should people mind me mocking their religion? It's my scrotum, ladies and gentlemen. And it's something we should all be free to do. Because let me tell you, no religion in the world is more important than my scrotum. On a final note, on a serious note, do not let fascism stand in the way of your freedom. Do not let false accusations of fascism prevent you from fighting for what's right. And do not let the slow creep of Islam become the scissors for your tongue. If you've got something to give, give it. If you've got something to do, do it. And if you've got something to say, then say it. And if the radicals and the far left don't like it, fuck them. Thank you, have a fucking lovely day.
Isn't Liam amazing? Give it up for Liam Tubbs, come on! Alright, I want to welcome on stage one of the bravest women I know. Ex-Muslim, the way more of us need to be. The contributor to Alt News Media, it's Shazia Hobbs!
Jihadists who have fought not enter the UK, and he does not speak for the entire population of London. Sadiq Khan's London is not open to anyone who wishes to tell the truth about Islam. People like Brittany Pettibone, Martin Selner and Lauren Southern are all banned from entering the UK. Sadiq Khan's London is closing to people who identify as white British. White flight is a real thing. And many people have left or are in the process of moving out of London. Have a look over the 2011 consensuses from every London council and borough. The facts speak for themselves. Imagine how bad the number will be when the next figures get released in 2021. Sadiq Khan accused me of being a mean tweeter and hurting his delicate feelings. Yet Khan and his office can't even source the author of a tweet because they're so incompetent, in spite of the fact that they have set up a hate crime hub. For all of us free speakers, mean tweets matter more than knife crime, drug gangs and acid attacks in Sadiq Khan's London. I am using my freedom of speech to respond to Sadiq Khan. You can't take care of business. Stand down. You're not fit for office.
I'm back. You know, I kind of feel embarrassed. How did Shazia hit Sadiq Khan's London and I forgot to? Who remembers that Sky News interview? Is Sadiq turning London into a shithole? It's patently obvious. Ladies and gentlemen, your next speaker is the leader of the UK Independence Party. He gave an amazing media appearance on the Daily Politics last week. It's Gerard Batten!
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Well, I don't know about you, I often enjoy a nice walk on a Sunday, but I don't think I was really prepared for today. I would like to congratulate you all for turning up. I'd like to congratulate all the organisers of this march, particularly also the veterans and the football lads for whom who ensured that it was a nice, peaceful walk from Hyde Park. And of course, I'd like to congratulate the police who have the unenviable task of having to turn out on a Sunday in order to police the other end of this demonstration. Look what we've got here today. Thousands of honest, decent, patriotic people who don't need a bodyguard, or not exactly a bodyguard, they don't need to be policed. And what have you got down that end? You've got the masked, cowardly thugs who want to stop you asserting your right to free speech. Now, what is free speech? We've all turned out today to celebrate it. Well, let me give you the Universal Declaration of Human Rights definition, 1948. Everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. This right includes freedom to hold opinions without interference and to seek, receive and impart information and ideas through any media, regardless of frontiers. Well, it's not legally binding, and we know that in many places it's not adhered to at all. But in Britain, we had very good free speech traditions up until fairly recently. There were no laws for free speech, but there were no laws until recently against free speech. And of course in America, it's protected under their constitution. Well, freedom of speech is vital to Western civilization. It must be free to discuss ideas and issues, and that's what we've done over the last few centuries. And look what we've added to the world in terms of our law, our political systems, our science, our art, our literature, and our culture. It's put the modern world where it is today. That's what our freedom of speech has achieved in the last 300 to 400 years. And now it's under attack. And how is it being attacked? Well, about 3 or 4 main means of doing that. One is name calling. Anybody now that says something which is not acceptable to the political and media establishment is labelled. You might be a racist, you might be a homophobe, you might be this phobe or that phobe, but you are labelled and given a name so that you can be marginalised and intimidated from not talking. And we have censorship. We have Tommy Robinson recently taken off Twitter. And some of you will have noticed over the years, do you remember Dr. David Bellamy, who did those marvellous programmes on the BBC? He was taken off because he wouldn't subscribe to the man-made climate change theory. And not only that, another chap who's had that experience, Piers Corbyn, who's Jeremy Corbyn's brother. He's actually, he's a very nice chap. I've met him, and he is an expert meteorologist. He's got a business that conducts, he makes money out of predicting the weather. He's no longer on the BBC because he doesn't believe in man-made climate change either. So he's been dropped. And then, of course, we have universities, no platforming people. Well, I thought the idea of universities was to actually discuss things and arrive at a consensus of what's what based on all the arguments. I never went to university, so obviously I have a misunderstanding as far as that's concerned. And then we have this new concept of hate crime. I'd like somebody to describe to me what a love crime is. All crimes are hateful. They're normally perpetrated by people with no conscience or fairly hateful themselves. So what's a hate crime? Well, let's have a look for a definition, shall we? Now, if I quote you the Public Order Act of 1986, it says, just to give you a brief overview, nothing in the Act which actually prohibits or restricts discussion, criticism, expression, antipathy, dislike, ridicule, insult or abuse of particular religions or beliefs or practices of their adherents, etc., etc. It seems to be telling you that you have the freedom to criticise belief systems and ideologies. But now look at the most recent Police and Crown Prosecution Service interpretation of that Act, and I'll read it to you. If someone does something that isn't a criminal offence, but the victim or anyone else believes it was motivated by prejudice or hate, we would class this as a hate incident. Though what the perpetrator has done may not be against the law, their reasons for doing it are. This means it may be possible to charge them with an offence. Now just think about that for a minute. What it means is that someone can be charged with a criminal offence for expressing an opinion that isn't a criminal offence, but because someone took offence at their opinion, they can be charged. This is Orwellian. Well, I'm now going to commit a hate crime, ladies and gentlemen. And you're all my witnesses. Now, a few days ago, it was Karl Marx's 200th birthday. Now, I hate Marxism. I hate communism. I hate what it's done to the world. I hate the repression, the suffering, the murder that has been caused around the world and which in many countries it is still causing. Now, are there any Marxists out there who are going to take offence at what I've just said? For example, John MacDonald, the Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer, is a Marxist. If he was offended at watching me say this, I could be guilty of an offence and I could be charged. and I shall look forward to my day in court. Now, how did we reach this insane situation? Well, it's our old friends, political correctness and cultural Marxism. Now, you'll all know where political correctness came from. It was invented in communist countries because the political system didn't actually describe reality. It was unreal. But on the other hand, you couldn't speak against it. So what was going on was called politically correct. It may have been incorrect in the world of sanity, but it was correct in the world of Marxist politics. So they invented political correctness to describe it. And that's where we are today. What we're seeing with political correctness is a kind of an unholy alliance between the left and big international business. Because what they're trying to bring about is a globalist system controlled by a centre, by an elite at the centre. You get socialist policies imposed from you by things like the European Union. And the European Union actually produces legislation at the behest of big business, which can cope with it, while smaller businesses can't. It is an unholy alliance of those who want to take away your freedoms for different reasons. And of course, the big elephant in the political and media establishment's room is Islam itself. We have imported into Western civilization a dark age ideology. That is to say, the literalist interpretation of that ideology. And that now represents a great threat to our freedoms and our freedom of speech. And as Islam increases, you will see more calls for legislation to prevent us criticising it. And I always emphasise to you, criticise and talk about the ideology, because that's what matters. I've met a lot of ex-Muslims who tell me that a lot of Muslims don't like the ideology, but because it's a cult, they cannot rebel against it. Well, let's help them rebel. Let's start talking about it. So there you are. That's where we are. What can you do about it? Well, there are two things you can do about it, in my view. Number one is to keep on exercising your free speech. Always do it rationally, always do it politely, always talk about issues, always talk about things, always talk about ideas. We never want to insult individuals. We don't want to be gratuitously saying nasty things about people. It's not about people, it's about ideas. Use your free speech. Number two, you have to organise politically. You can have a march of thousands of people like we've got today. You've had them before. Do you remember there was a march of 1 million people against the Iraq War? There was another, was it nearly 1 million people against the for the Countryside Alliance? Did it make any difference? No. Why not? Because Mrs May and the Prime Minister and all the MPs in Westminster, there's only one thing they care about, and that is votes. Gaining votes or losing votes. If you want to defend your free speech, if you want to defend your country, then you have to organise politically. You can join a political party, you can form a new one. I'm biased because I'd like you to come and join mine. I'd like you to join UKIP. But you will only change things when you can threaten Westminster down the road. UKIP organised for 23 years. We didn't need an MP in Parliament to force David Cameron to get the referendum. We got the referendum, and now because we don't have MPs, they are trying to betray it. So what I'd like to leave you with, ladies and gentlemen, is a thought. I want to tell you about the kind of political party I want UKIP to be. It already is, but I want it to improve. And I want to tell you about the country we want to live in. I'm sure you would agree with me. We want a free country, free of the European Union. Free to make our own laws. Free under our own democratically elected government, whoever may they be. We want a country where our children are not told to be ashamed of their history, but where they're told to be proud. We want a country which is at ease with itself because it's proud of its history, it's proud of what it's done, it's proud of what it is, it has a vision for the future, and we want to be good friends and neighbours with all the other countries of the world. Thank you.
Gerard Batten is the man. All right, just before I introduce the next speaker, I want us all to do something that the people who are against us and the ideologies that are against us tend not to do. You know, there are all these police around here. They're ordinary people, they're working hard jobs. They're putting themselves in the front line. It's not these police that are the problem. They're not trying to shut down our freedom of speech, it's their bosses, right? So I want to say to all the police here, thank you for doing your jobs. Thank you so much for putting yourselves on the front line. We respect you, we love you. Thank you. Well now, your next speaker is the leader of the For Britain Party. It's Anne-Marie Waters!
Oh, wow. Wow, wow. Hello, London. Look around you now. Look around you. This is your democracy right here. This is your democracy. I was thinking to myself this morning that when I was a kid, we used to say, it's a free country. Do you remember that? You don't hear that now. Now you are far more likely to hear, you can't say that. We can say that, and we will say that. I'm going to do a very, very quick history lesson. Don't worry, I won't bore you. Back in the 1940s, 1950s, a new world order began. Globalism was born, and the world decided that the borders of the West were to come down. The communist countries demanded hate speech laws. They demanded hate speech laws so that they could torture and imprison political opponents and silence all dissent. The Western world was a very different place then, and they said no to hate speech laws. But the communists never went away. They instead began the slow march through the institutions, into our schools, into our media, into our police. And then along came Islam, through our open borders, and it too demanded hate speech laws, and the treacherous, traitorous Labour Party gave them their hate speech laws. Now make no mistake about it, what the end game is here. The Islamic alliance with the communist left, the end game is to criminalise you, to criminalise me, and to imprison and punish all political dissent to the political class. That is the end game, and we have to understand that now. You have done something absolutely remarkable today. You've done something remarkable today. Keep coming out in these numbers and resist this with everything you've got. Resist it. Fight these tyrants with everything you've got. We don't have much time, but we will win.
and we'll win by doing one thing and one thing only, telling the truth. Tell it like you see it. No matter how controversial it might be, no matter how offensive it might be, you can save your country if you say it like you see it, and only by telling the truth can we save this country. And I have never seen a crowd this size out there telling that lot that you want your freedom of speech back, and you're going to get it. If you're not standing out there, there is no point in us standing up here. You are all heroes. You are all heroes. You are brave and you are patriotic and you're willing to stand up for what is right. Congratulations to you all. And through using our democracy and speaking our minds, we will have a Britain where the children of future generations will once again be able to say, it's a free country. Thank you all for coming out.
What a feeling. Thank you. I want to thank every single person for coming today. Theresa May, guaranteed, is watching this. Briefly, I'll come on in a little while and speak after a few more speakers. I was meant to be in China today. I was meant to be doing a charity walk for the Amelia May Foundation. Some of you may remember Amelia May. She was a beautiful young 2-year-old girl who sadly died of neuroblastoma cancer. I was meant to be raising money for them, but we was looking at dates, and the only date that we could do this was this weekend. So I haven't gone to do the Great Wall of China. 5 other volunteers have gone. What I want to quickly ask you now, everyone who works for this charity is a volunteer. Oops. Everyone who works for this charity is a volunteer. No one gets paid. The accountant, everyone volunteers. I'll ask, where's the girls? There's some girls now that are going to come out with buckets to raise money, just because I feel bad because I was meant to be there, and I know if I was there walking it for the charity, people would donate, they'd raise more money. They're an amazing charity who help lots of children, so the girls are going to come out now and pass their buckets round. If everyone can, I know you've all spent money coming here, but give generously, it's a great charity. How hot are you? I'm boiling and you're all in the sun. There's also, if you get your phones out and text that code, the amount you want to donate, you can also do that. The girls are coming out now to pass around the charity buckets. Thank you so much. Next, we are stereotyped as thugs, as racist, as far right, as intolerant. There are some brave ladies about to come up onto the stage. These are quite well known within the drag queen circles in London. A very left-wing movement. It takes guts for them to come here, as everyone would predict, or the media would portray you people as intolerant. I want you to give them a massive warm welcome onto the stage. It's the third song. The lyrics in the third song tell exactly why we're here.
All right, you guys can't see anything below my waist, but let me tell you, my legs look fucking fantastic. I'm gonna sing a few songs for you. That's if you'll allow me. All right. Empty spaces, what are we living for? Abandoned places, I guess we know the score. On and on, does anybody know what we are living for? Another hero, another mindless gun behind a curtain in your pantomime. Toe the line. Does anybody want to take it anymore? Show must go on. Show must go on, yeah. Outside the dawn is breaking. My makeup may be flaking, but my smile still stays on. Whatever happens, we leave it all to chance. Another heartache, another failed romance. On and on. Does anybody know what we are living for? Yes, I'm learning. I must be born now. I still be turning around the corner now. Outside the dawn is breaking, but inside in the dark and making to be free. Let me hear you! Show must go on, yeah. Show must go on, yeah. Outside the dawn is breaking, but inside in the dark and making to be free. Yeah. Oh, my soul is painted like the wings of butterflies. Fairy tales of yesterday will go, but every time I will find my friend. Show must go on, yeah. Show must go on, yeah. I'm facing with regret. I'm never giving in. Oh, with this show. You know, I'm top of the I don't care. I have to find the will to carry on. Show must go on. Thank you. Not again. I feel like once is enough. All right, so as you can all tell, ladies and gentlemen, as Tommy said, you might not expect that an artist like me would be here at an event like this, but I firmly believe there was a time when it was performers like me that went on stage and said the things everyone else was scared to say. Because I'm not scared of saying anything. I like to think that back in the day, it was the utility of freedom of speech that allowed gay people to freely discuss their own liberation. It was because of freedom of speech that drag artists could perform in the glittering West End of London, where I perform a weekly show at the Phoenix Artists Club. Tickets are £20. I have, there's a singer who I love, and this next song is by this singer, and the reason I'm singing it is because about 2 weeks ago she did an interview in The Guardian, and she sadly expressed one of the forbidden opinions, ladies and gentlemen. And so gay Twitter was ablaze, saying Shania Twain is cancelled because she dared to say that she might have voted for Donald Trump had she not been a Canadian citizen living in Switzerland. All right, so her hypothetical scenario was deemed so unacceptable that the gays have abandoned her. Well, I haven't abandoned her. And now I know there's a lot of men here. There's probably more men than women. So ladies, this is your chance to make your voice heard, because we love Shania, don't we? All right, take it away. All right, take me back to the top of the track, my love. We need to start. And give me lots of volume on that track. Okay, so you're a rocket scientist. That don't impress me much. So you got the brains that haven't got the tests. Don't get me wrong, yeah, I think you're alright. Now keep on in the middle of the night. That don't impress me much. I never knew a guy who carried a mirror in his pocket, in a comb up his sleeve, just in case. And all that extra hole gel in your hair ought to lock it, 'cause heaven forbid it should fall out of place. Oh, you think you're special, oh, you think it's something else. Okay, so you're Brad Pitt, that don't impress me much. So you got the looks that have you got the touch now. Now don't get me wrong, yeah, I think you're alright. Don't keep me on in the middle of the night. That don't impress me much. Yeah, yeah. Oh, that don't impress me much. You're one of those guys who likes the sunniest machine. Let me take off my shoes before you let me get in. I can't believe you kissed your car goodnight. Come on, baby, tell me, you must be joking, right? Oh, you think you're special? Oh, you think it's something else? Okay, so you got a car, that don't impress me much. So you got the moves that have you got the touch now. Now don't get me wrong, yeah, I think you're alright. Now I'll give you one in the middle of the night. That don't impress me much. I know you think the moves that have you got the touch now. Now don't get me wrong, yeah, I think you're alright. Now I'll give you one in a long, cold, lonely night. That don't impress me much. Yeah, yeah. Woo! Okay, so what do you think? You're Milo or something? That don't impress me much. Oh, no, no. That don't impress me much.
you want to do an interview?
Sure, because my voice is pretty gone, so...
Your interview spot, will you feel better? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to get an interview out of you. Okay. Shazzy is nervous, bless her, but she's still got big balls because she just spoke to like 40,000 people. Okay, so we're here with... Oh, I like your nails. Please show nails. Okay, we're here with the lady who's been dubbed Bacon Lady. She's actually called Amy. I thought she called herself that, but it turns out when you go to Speaker's Corner, you actually get given nicknames. I didn't know that until Raj told me this. So yeah, you just want to introduce yourself because I know some of my followers won't know you and that. So
yeah, my name's Amy, and I've been dubbed the Bacon Lady because I went to Speaker's Corner a few weeks ago. You have to excuse my voice; I'm losing my voice, but I went to Speaker's Corner on Tommy's speech day when he did that speech for Martin Selner. And I confronted some Ali Dawa and a few of the other people who were around him, and it was sort of as a joke. They were getting a bit threatening, so I just said, "I've got bacon," so I held up a ham sandwich, and they sort of went, there was a hesitation, and then they all started laughing. So it sort of broke the ice, really, because it was very tense just before I started.
You still have a sense of humour.
That's what happened, and it seems as though it's looked at, when people see me, they refer to me as a Bacon Lady, but not in a negative way. It's like,
I know you as Bacon Lady.
I know. But, actually, I've also been dubbed Queen of Speaker's Corner, which is,
that's much better.
A bit more preferable to Bacon Lady, but, I'm not proud.
The Bacon Queen of Speaker's Corner.
Bacon. And I always go with my bacon sandwiches, I know. When I go there on a Sunday, have my bacon sandwiches at the ready, just in case anybody wants one.
You love a bacon sandwich. Smoked bacon with a nice poached egg on, like tiger, is it called tiger bread? Tiger bread.
Oh, it's lovely. It sounds delish. Anyway, so
well, yeah, we're getting off topic. We're talking about breakfast. Do you go to Speaker's Corner quite regularly now, am I correct?
Now I do. Since I went, the thing that sort of made YouTube was on Easter Sunday. I went on Easter Sunday because I wanted to stop the praying going on by Muslims. Because I know it's not allowed, public praying. People don't realise it, but there's a Public Order Act and public assembly, like the way they're doing in the streets.
It's against part policy.
It's actually against the regulation. This is the problem, is the police.
Okay, I didn't know about this.
The police, it's a park policy which falls under a regulation that is to do with the Royal Parks and Open Spaces Regulation 1997. And in that, on number 17, it says no assembly. And an assembly is 2 or more people. It doesn't matter, and that is to do with any assembly.
Yeah, whether it's Christian, Sikh, Scientology.
And the thing is, that what people don't realise, which I'm still trying to get across to people, is not only is it not allowed at Speaker's Corner without permission. That's the difference. They need to write and ask if they want to. But the problem is, the park has made a decision not to do it because it would just cause tension. And there's plenty of mosques around. There's no need for them to be praying there. And because of the nature of where we're living in today, Islam, it's all about domination, and them praying is just a sign of domination. It's not actually them being pious and doing their praying. It's a signal more. So I'm just so tired of everything that I've witnessed, everything that I'm hearing, and I just decided to speak out, look at the law, examine the law, and the same thing with free speech. Most people don't realize we have much more free speech than people realize. People come out with these hate speech laws, but 29J of the Public Order Act 1986 is a clause that gives everybody the right to criticize, hate, say anything they want to say.
It's also protected under the Racial and Religious Hatred Act. Whilst it makes it in some parts illegal, it actually also protects free speech and criticism of religion.
Yeah, 29J, it falls with it. It has not been removed. It's just far down in the number 29.
Are we talking about the same piece of legislation?
1986 and 2006.
Oh, okay.
They've come up with this hate speech to cover the religious, not being able to criticize and all the rest of it. But the 29J supersedes that. You know, and this is what most people don't realize. We've been psychologically trained, and it seems as though people, rather than look and investigate, which is all online. I mean, it's all on the government documents. Anybody can find it.
Opinionated European, I don't know if you know her. She was explaining this before because she's a law student. She knows a little bit more than me. So yeah, she was explaining why, even though it's protected, people are still getting prosecuted for it. So I was speaking to Raj before. What is the state of free speech and speakers corner? Like, how's that going? Because he's saying that it's disappearing. I'm curious to see what you think, because obviously you go there regularly as well.
Well, because it all kicked off on Easter Sunday when I produced the the ruling and sort of explained to the police, actually, yeah, no, they're not supposed to be doing this, and they said, well, actually, no, I know, but yes, they can, but no, but yes, but, you know, we don't really want to do our job. We're scared. You know, and I dared the policeman to go tell him to stop praying, and of course he didn't take me up on it. So what is very infuriating for me, you know, everybody talks about it, they don't talk about it enough, is the fairness, is the equal treatment under law. There's not supposed to be any favoritism, and there so clearly is favoritism. And I've been digging into the history of the policies, and I'll tell you what, if you look at the Barcelona Declaration of 1995, sorry.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we have to cut that short. We're just going to go and film Tommy, yeah. We'll grab you again later, though, because we're not finished with that conversation. See you in a bit.
Thanks very much.
All good?
It's important because it's who we are as human beings. You know, you look at humans in relation to apes and other animals, and when they get attacked by a saber-toothed tiger, they go, wee, 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 and they can't communicate to their fellow ape. You need to watch out for those. We have a conscious mind, and we're able to say, you know the cats with the huge front teeth? Stay away from those. Now, I didn't get attacked by a saber-tooth. He told me about it, so I have now lived that experience. And that is why we have evolved as human beings, because we can impart experience to each other. And when you try to take that away, what you're really trying to do is control other people, control their experiences. And if you do that, you are a saber-toothed tiger. Speaker's Corner isn't just a park where people talk. I remember going there and stay away from them. Now, I didn't get attacked by a saber-toothed tiger, but you told me about it, so I have now lived that experience. And that is why we have evolved as human beings, because we can impart experience to each other. When you try to take that away, what you're really trying to do is control other people, control their experiences. And if you do that, you are a saber-toothed tiger. Speaker's Corner isn't just a park where people talk. I remember going there as a kid, and it's a bicycle park.
I guess growing up, I was always a big contrarian. But I always thought that the battle of ideas, the challenging my teachers, challenging my parents, whatever it may be, was the most important game or battle or challenge we would have in our entire lives, because the battle of ideas is the very way that we come to the best conclusions. The best conclusions is to live our lives, to save lives, to create any of these things. We come to these conclusions through debate. And I always fought for free speech, because debate was not only something that I loved, but something that I believed would come to create a better society. I never expected in my lifetime for it to be so suppressed the way it is. I thought I was fighting for future generations that would face what we're facing now, but instead I've now found myself banned from countries, kicked out of groups, kicked out of parties, my lifetime, and it's becoming ever more real every single day, and that the horrifying world without debate, without other opinions, is fast coming upon us. And once we reach that, all of our creation, all of our beauty, all of our science, everything, it will be the lowest common denominator. The best ideas will not win, and society as a whole will not win because of that.
Well, the free pursuit of intelligence, the free pursuit of expression is, as far as I'm concerned, a battle of the literal versus the ironic mind. And the reason it's so important that we defend the ironic mind, which is the type of person who says things that might offend, the reason it's so important to defend that is because it's out of offence. It is in the filth, perhaps, even sometimes, that we find the truth. In the things that we don't like to probe, in the things that we don't necessarily even like to say, there lies truth with those things. Freedom of speech, for me, is not just about people being able to say what they want. It's about being able to find out core truths. Because without the truths, you can't fix the problems of the world. Well, I mean, Speaker's Corner is just the most magnificent environment. It has been for so long. I mean, the ideas that have been proposed at Speaker's Corner, I mean, most of them I probably wouldn't even agree with, but I love the fact that it exists. I love the fact that I can go there, say whatever I like, and then I can listen to other people saying things that I might not particularly like. What's really, really deeply troubling is when Speaker's Corner gets turned into a pulpit for simply one ideology. That is no longer Speaker's Corner, that is Tyrant's Corner.
I grew up imagining myself a member of a community of hell raisers and experimenters, of the jokers, the Lokis, and the mischief makers of society. I was gay, and I particularly thought that because the left said that they liked gays, that I would be allowed to experiment with dangerous ideas, express myself how I pleased, push the boundaries of what was acceptable, play with taboos. Actually, I discovered because I was a conservative and the wrong kind of gay that I've been censored more than almost anybody else. I've been had my free speech restricted more than anybody else I can think of, and it's been painful. At least until recently, there would have been no need for something like a Speaker's Corner in America, a land where the right to express yourself freely is guaranteed by the First Amendment. But maybe those days are coming to an end. Maybe one day America's going to need a Speaker's Corner too. London needs one, the UK needs one, because free speech isn't free in Europe, and that's something that needs to change. The idea that you could be forcibly detained by law enforcement for offending somebody's feelings is ludicrous. And living in America has taught me just how insane it is, and Britain has got to fix it.
Freedom of speech is important in general, I think, to everybody. But I think it becomes more important when you find yourself starting to lose it, as the right has over the past couple of years. The problem now that we mainly see is that they're not being consistent with it. So they are pressing more people with right-wing views, and they're letting people with more left-wing views get away with not only pretty much whatever they want to say, but also you see these anti-fascists who get away even with violence, and they're not reprimanded for this. So it's very important if we want to, especially for me as an American, the First Amendment, if we want to remain a free country, for sure.
Free speech is important to me because the truth is important to me. Human conversation about reality and facts and things that make sense is important to me. I mean, you wouldn't say to a scientist, why is free scientific inquiry important to you? It's because that's what science is. You wouldn't say to a mathematician, why is mathematical consistency and the openness to discuss various theorems important to you? That is mathematics. And in the human journey towards trying to find actual truth in the world, which is an elusive and slippery beast to track down, no one person is going to end up with a monopoly on that process. We need everyone to be involved, everyone to bring their A game to the human conversation in the pursuit of truth so that we actually capture it for once and hopefully can keep it for a while. Well, I actually grew up in London, and I remember as a kid going to Speaker's Corner and seeing the crazy, the sane, and everyone in between getting up to make their case to sometimes a receptive, sometimes a hostile, sometimes a jeering crowd. And I remember thinking what an amazing thing it was to stand up there and try your barbaric yacht from the rooftop of the world to see how it landed in the minds of the people. one of the great challenges in European civilization at the moment is people don't know what they can talk about. They don't know what they can criticize. They don't know where the line is. And when they see someone stand up at Speaker's Corner and speak a truth out to bring a challenging argument and perspective to the United Kingdom or other places, they then have some sense of what is allowable, of what can be talked about. And that, at least until free speech is fully restored, is a very positive thing. So I would say to all of the men and women who stand up there and speak a difficult truth to a sometimes hostile world, thank you. You are the light that shows people the way, that allows us to find what is real in this world.
Free speech is important because it's who we are as human beings. You look at humans in relation to other animals, and when they get attacked by a saber-toothed tiger.
I want to thank everyone for their patience as well. You've all come out in this heat for the day. The next character who's coming up, he didn't choose this. He's been put into the free speech battle. He's been prosecuted, taken to court over a joke. And it was a funny joke. And can I just say, certain people you meet and you love their character. From meeting him, he's such a good character. Let's get him up. Representing Scotland. In Scotland, Count Dracula.
Hello. My name's Marcus Meakin, but for the people that don't know me, I go by Count Dracula online. Over 2 years ago, I decided to pay a plank on my girlfriend. She thinks her pet pug is the cutest thing on earth, and she wouldn't shut the fuck up about how cute the pug was. So I decided to turn the dog into the most horrible thing that I could think of, which was a Nazi. I taught the dog to respond to the phrase, gas the Jews, and don't, and to do a Hitler salute whenever I said Sieg Heil. I filmed the dog's antics and put it on YouTube, and hoping to show it to my girlfriend and catch her completely off guard. In the video I provided clear context to what I was doing and why I was doing it. Shortly afterwards, the police came to my house. Yeah. Arrested me, placed me in handcuffs, and took me outside to the waiting press, who the police had tipped off to the exact date and time of my arrest so that they could get photographs of this PR stunt. I was taken to jail, held overnight for court the next day. I was then released to await my trial. My trial would go on for 2 years, twice as long as the actual Nuremberg trials. During these 2 years, I lost several jobs, I was defamed by the press, I've received threats of violence, and I've had to constantly put up with the press and members of the public lying about who I am and what I actually believe in. While at the same time throughout those 2 years, trying to comfort my girlfriend and mother, who were terrified that I was going to prison. And me and my family had to go through all of that for 2 years because I made a joke. For the entirety of my trial, the prosecution tried their hardest to find evidence of me being a Nazi, a racist, or a white supremacist, and in the end, they found absolutely nothing. No evidence whatsoever of me being a racist or a white supremacist was submitted by the prosecution, because absolutely none existed. So the only path that they could go down was to assume the thoughts that I had in my head when I made the video. The courts decided what my thoughts were and presented their decision to the public as fact, when it's obviously completely untrue. I'm amazed that more people aren't concerned that the courts now have the ability to overrule the reality of what your thoughts are, replace it with their own interpretation, and then convict you over the interpretation that they gave you. Apparently a lot of people still haven't read 1984. I provided clear context in the video to what I was doing and why I was doing it. An explanation was given, but people didn't want to acknowledge the explanation. People instead wanted to act like the trumped-up high school English teacher examining a passage from a book, trying to find the hidden message or meaning that the author was trying to get across, when there isn't one. There is no hidden message or meaning behind what I did. I wanted to play a prank on my girlfriend, and I'm a shitlord, right? That is the reality of the situation, and I see no reason why I should suffer because people have willfully chosen to ignore reality. In the aftermath of what happened, I've decided to keep fighting to protect free speech, because after seeing my mother repeatedly crying at the fact that her son could get sent to prison just because he hurt some people's feelings, that was more than enough for me to want to make sure that what happened to me doesn't happen to anyone else. And because I want to protect free speech, I have been branded a racist, a Nazi, and a white supremacist. And that I am part of the alt-right. To set the record straight, I reject any notion of superiority or inferiority based on race. I reject the idea of an ethno-state. If you want to live here in peace and not only respect the freedom of others, but fight to protect the freedom of others, then you are welcome in this country. I reject Nazism and any other form of far-right ideology because I have a deep, seething hatred for anything that even has a hint of authoritarianism, and that goes for the far left too. These are the things that I've always believed, and if you actually watch my videos and look at the content I produce, you would know yourself that that's what I believe. But despite that, there are people online who still call me a racist and a white supremacist, and some of these individuals can waste hours and hours a day on Twitter saying these things to me, but they can't spare 5 minutes to do some basic research. And any famous comedians who dared voice their support for me, not over the joke itself, but over principle, they were attacked by their peers and told to drop their wrong-think opinion. Their peers told them, get the fuck back in line. Because to these people, image matters more than principles. People seem to think that if someone wants to protect freedom of speech, it means that person is far right, or at the very least right wing. People have even branded this event as a far right event because of what they think of the speakers here. Well then, where are the left-wing free speech events? Where are the left-wing voices coming out in support of free speech? The reason these speakers are here today isn't because the right have claimed the principle of free speech, it's because the left have abandoned it. Freedom of speech is not a right-wing goal, and it's not a left-wing goal. It's a human goal, it is a human right that everyone deserves. It doesn't matter what race you are, it doesn't matter what religion you are, it doesn't matter where you are from. It is a right that we all must protect because it belongs to all of us. Free speech isn't owned by the right, it isn't owned by the left, it isn't owned by an organisation, and it certainly isn't owned by the fucking government. It's owned by us, the citizens of the United Kingdom. And to close, I've actually got a message for Antifa that are here today. and any other far-left groups who are in favour of placing restrictions on what people can or can't say. I was actually one of you once, many, many years ago, and back then one of the things that we took pride in was how anti-establishment we were, and one of the last things that we would ever have done is allowed for the government to have more power. My, how things have changed. The reason that we would have never allowed the government to have control of something is because we all knew when it comes to the government, you give them control of one thing and it never ends there. They will keep going and going until they control as much as they possibly can, and that was one of the most important lessons that we learned, and it influenced every decision that we made. And it really is sad to see that this new generation were never taught that lesson and have instead opted to saw off the branch that they're sitting on. Laws are accessible to every party that gets voted in. Any party that is in power can use these laws. Right now it's the Tories, next it could be Labour, then it could be the Lib Dems, or whoever gets voted into power. But one day a far-right government could get voted in. You might roll your eyes at that, but none of us ever thought Trump was actually going to fucking win, did we? So it is possible that one day a far-right government could get voted in. A far-right government who now has access to these same laws. And if that day ever comes, Antifa, what do you think's going to happen to you? You'll want my help then, and I'll give it to you. But what we need to do is work together to make sure that whoever gets voted in has no access to any laws that restrict our human rights. We need to work together to protect our freedom. Alba Gebrath.
Count Angela. Okay. Now we've got Sargon Ovakad. Sargon is a liberal, but he's called a fascist. Sargon is causing a revolution within the universities. That's where his support's coming. Come on, mate.
Holy shit, look at the size of this crowd. I'm not seeing many Nazi flags. Distinct lack of swastikas. Lots of British flags, English flags, Welsh and Scottish flags, but no Nazi flags. I think I've been lied to. It's weird. So I just want to say that I'm kind of disappointed that Ali Dawa couldn't be up here. I don't agree with what he stands for, but I agree with his right to say it. So, what is freedom? It's a complicated question, but I think you can boil it down to this. Freedom means nothing if it does not include the freedom to be left alone. To be left alone to one's own devices so long as they don't interfere with others. But each of the groups that are opposing us here, they're not going to leave you alone. You've got the far left, who are basically economic totalitarians. You've got the Islamists, who are the religious totalitarians. And they're the ones who want us to shut up. Each of these groups hate British liberalism because they're totalitarian. They're totalitarian because they want to erase the distinction between the public and the private. You will not be able to get away from them because they want to make your personal life their political project. They will never leave you alone. They want your property, they want your identity, they want your immortal soul, and they have a moral compulsion pushing them on. Their consciences won't let them rest because their belief systems will not permit tolerance of the different. How much will you concede to these tyrants? Good. Every statement they make is in opposition to your natural rights. You must believe what they believe. You must act as they act, and you must say what they say, and don't you forget it. They do not come offering freedom, because none of them are themselves free. All they can offer you is a share in their servitude. Misery loves company. If people shackled by mental chains see those who aren't, their first compulsion is to try and impose their needs and values on you. Because, as Kanye West recently pointed out, they choose their chains. They need the safety of oppression, the abdication of moral choice, and the consequences thereof. If something terrible happens, what do they say? That wasn't real Islam. That wasn't real communism. They choose their chains because they are weak. They are afraid of differences and their own ability to handle things that are different. They do not trust in their own moral character. They are afraid of what comes next. But I can say something they can't say. I am not afraid. Given the size of this crowd, I'm fucking terrified. But in principle, I am free. And I will not allow the fearful to take my freedom from me because they have no faith in themselves. Thank you.
The next lad up, I usually, if I'm preparing to do interviews or go on people's shows, I have to do some preparation. But when I go on this man's show, I don't have to do any preparation because we just have a laugh. Gavin McInnes. Gavin Officehead McInnes.
See me? You see my ma? You see fish? My ma hates fish. My parents are from Scotland, by the way. How's about fucking Scotland? Run and you will live. But what would you give to come back to this day and fight against the fucking English? Am I right? See, my parents, they're for the Gorbals and Pollockshaws, and the thing about Scotland as a wee man is that I noticed people like a bit of patter. They like joking around. I remember I was running with my gran for the bus, and she finally caught the bus, and she says that the bus driver opens the door and he goes, "Just you keep running ahead and you're going to get down before I do." Scotland is about making jokes, being offensive, being crude, and being rude. So, in about 1974, my parents moved to England when I was born. I was born in Itchen, not far up the road. And I noticed the same sort of deal, right? Mucking about. Geezers mucking about. And I thought, everything I liked about Scotland, when I visit my gran, is eminently true here. We go to the pub as a baby, they'd bring me to the pub, they'd banter on about, they'd have a fag, not a homosexual, it's a cigarette. They probably have a fag too. I don't know what they got up to. And we would come to Speaker's Corner when I was a wee lad. And I remember being faint memories as a toddler going to Speaker's Corner. I didn't know what everyone was on about, but I knew they were mucking about, and I knew they were on about something. And I just knew I liked it, right? So then we moved to like Canada in about 1975 or so. So I go down there and I just go, hello everyone, I'm perfectly chuffed to be here. I want to get a Parker and I'm very excited about Canada. And they just went, pounded the accent right out of me. And then I was a Canadian. So I stay down there, right? And I'm like, this fucking rocks. And we're joking around. We came with a lot of Indians in the early 70s, right? And a lot of, you know, you'd get beat up for an accent back then. And it was our way of sort of making everyone Canadian. And within a week, you know, you're smoking a dart and you're fucking fighting during hockey and all that. And fucking going to the fucking DOA concert and fucking slamming and shit. You got a 2-4 under your arm. And then I moved to America. Yeah, boo. Boo it up. Oh, uhuru, that's different. That is the Zimbabwean word for freedom, I believe. So then we're in America. And I've had a pretty good run here in the Western world, in Scotland and England and Canada and America. And I look back now and I think, what's happened to my culture? What happened to the West? We got a guy up here for Scotland who is arrested for teaching a pug to Sieg Heil. That's a fucking joke. And he likes to talk about how it's about context and everything. Fuck context. You can teach your dog to Sieg Heil, I don't care. It's none of my business. You know, fuck context. The beauty of Speaker's Corner is you just dig up the muck. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. Get it all out. Everyone can. We have a pedophile coming on next who's going to make the case about how babies are sexy. He's going to have a baby in lingerie up here. It's a very tricky argument to make, but we're going to let him. No, just kidding. We're not doing that. Fuck context. I don't care about context. What separates us from the rest of the other species? We talk to each other. We go, hey, caveman, don't go near a saber-toothed tiger. It will eat you. And then that caveman goes, thanks for the story, pal. Mental note. Giant cats with huge fangs are bad news. We keep evolving. And now we're devolving with these new rules where we can't say certain things, we can't offend people. It's not just un-American or un-British or it's inhuman. I hope this doesn't offend any animals in the audience, but humans are better than all other animals. Fuck raccoons. Fuck dogs. Deer? What is on your head? A bunch of knives? What are you doing? You're not even carnivores. You eat grass? What do you do in the winter, you losers? And I think Britain, and let's stop joking around here. We know that Britain created the modern world, right? Like this, and the zip tie, and the tape, and the printer that made this, and this mic stand. Everything! You're welcome! Why are we so ashamed of these wonderful creations? Shit, the only thing we didn't make is that fucking tree! And we planted it, by the way. So, I'll just end with a story about the founding of America. The colonies encouraged dissent. They said, we need newspapers in every town along the East Coast. Boston needs a newspaper, New York needs a newspaper. Everyone needs their own little newspaper, and I don't want it to all be the same. Have debates in the paper, argue with each other. Talk about amendments. Maybe you all want guns. Maybe you should have a revolution or something. And the next thing you know, they had a revolution. And the lesson from that is free speech is very dangerous to the state. The government doesn't like free speech. And they've tricked us into culturally thinking that we don't like free speech. We don't like telling stories. We're worried about offending people, but we're not. When you see people talk on TV, they sound like aliens. That's not how we talk in pubs. And the reason those two are different is because it's based on this assumption that we're homophobic or transphobic or racist, blah, blah. It's all a fucking lie. Everyone is pretty decent human beings at the end of the day. We're all normal. We all like each other. So fuck off with the censorship. And here's another problem with it. By ostracizing those who are brave enough to speak out, you are forcing us to band together. I'm hanging out back here with trannies, homosexuals, and fucking soccer hooligans. All they do is say sound all the time. Sound, 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 sound. I don't understand them. Help. I want to rejoin the public. Just kidding, mice. Top gazers, sound, sound, sound. Look, we're at a point now where being a normal human being is considered radical. To talk in public the way you talk to your brother is considered radical. I don't know how we got here. I guess it's in the name of tolerance, but it's not who we are. It's not who we are as Scots. It's not who we are as Canadians. It's not who we are as English. It's not who we are as Americans. It's not who we are as human beings. We like having a laugh. Can we have a fucking laugh again? Can we be arrogant and rude and stupid? Can we wear a gaudy Hawaiian shirt and fart? No, no. You know, when people chant USA, USA, they're really saying, we love the Western world, we love Canada, we love Scotland, we love Canada, we love Britain, we love England, we love Wales. We're not ashamed of inventing everything, and we want to have a laugh and have some fun. If there's one thing that defines Western culture, it's fun. That's the irony of this whole thing. We're out here on stage defending fun. How is that a radical I'm not even joking. I'm willing to die to sit in a pub with my friend and tell a disgusting sexist joke. Good luck taking that away from me. With Molon Abe, they say, good luck, come and get them, come and get my guns. You're not gonna take my guns? I feel that way about jokes. Come and try to take my free speech. Do your best, do your worst. And I'll fucking bar you. So I will. We tried it their way because we're open-minded, because as I said earlier, we're all basically decent people. So when they told us to shut up and they told us not to say this and not to say that, to behave this way and use this terminology, we went, all right, I'll try it. And then we went, I don't like that anymore. It doesn't feel me, you know? It doesn't feel human to be constantly apologizing and censoring myself. I feel like I'm giving myself cancer when I shut my mouth. So you gotta let it out. And we do. And we will win this battle, ultimately, because we're fighting for humanity. We're fighting to be ourselves. We're fighting to be proud and unashamed of who we are. And what are we? We're Westerners. If you want to come here and you have those values, come on in. And if you'd like a part of the local pub, we'd love to have a pint with you. But if you want to tell us what to do, you can fuck off. Now, I know you might be a little peeved about that incident a couple hundred years ago when we were hiding in the trees with the Indians and all that. But as a symbolic gesture, I'd really appreciate if you could repeat after me as a British person. I was born here. USA! 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 US fucking A! USA! 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 Thanks, guys.
Now, unfortunately, the next guest can't be with us because she was arrested under counter-terrorism charges, held, detained, and refused entry into our country. When you think about the people that we have coming into our country, the terrorists, the hate preachers, we have Pakistani preachers who are banned from preaching in Pakistan, touring our country in mosques.
Scum! Scum!
I'll let Lauren do the talking. I'll give you Lauren Southern, the beautiful Lauren Southern.
Hey everyone. I'm sure you all know why I can't be here with you today in person. The UK government, in its infinite wisdom, has decided that my presence is not conducive to the public good. Why do they say this? Well, this is because I handed out flyers a few months ago in Luton claiming that Allah is gay. I did this because the media and the establishment assured me that Islam was just like any other religion in the West. And rather than accepting that theory uncritically, I decided to test it. You see, the one thing that almost all religions in the West have in common is an ability to cope with the sneers and mockery of an increasingly secular culture. And this is not an endorsement of that mockery, but rather a badge of honor for these religions who uphold freedom of speech. It shows their compatibility with a society founded on the values of debate and free thought. They have all had their idols mocked, and they have learned to roll with the punches. But not Islam. All religions are equal, but it seems some religions are more equal than others. While Christianity can be spat on, mocked, and ridiculed, the UK government derives hate speech laws to protect Islam. The European people keep their mouths shut because they fear another Charlie Hebdo, and our youth are bullied into submission by their educational institutions to bow to Mecca in the name of tolerance. But some ideas need to be challenged, and all ideas deserve to be ridiculed. How easy would it be to just do what we're told, to live quietly, to bow down, and to sing the slogans of the powerful, to quietly accept the paltry rewards of the obedient? But that's just not in us, is it? It's certainly not in the people who showed up today, and it is certainly not in the historical spirit and soul of this great United Kingdom. Because the spirit of the West is engulfed in a restlessness that hates submission and detests conformity, that craves conflict and yearns for infinity. Ours is a spirit of revolution, a compulsion to overturn what is established and to reshape the world. This revolutionary impulse is no longer an attribute or characteristic of the left, despite how progressives tout that it's their cornerstone to this day, but it is now one of the right, of conservatives, of libertarians, and even classical liberals. And what better word than the Latin word for a turnaround? We've gone too far down this path of insanity, into a clown world that no longer upholds morality or even reality. It's about time we spun on our heels. And so, the modern revolutionary rages against progressivism, for this doctrine has become the establishment's Bible. And with its actualization comes stagnancy and decay. We are in a unique position to witness this changing paradigm, to see that perhaps intolerance and narrow-mindedness were never inherent characteristics of the right or the left, but are instead characteristics of humans in positions of power. Power which enables us to ignore perspectives that challenge our worldview and to shut down those who try to disrupt the status quo. And as that pendulum swings back and forth, as it historically has for ages, how easy would it be for us to flatter ourselves when the winds blow in our favor? How easy would it be to forget our skepticism of established ideas and our respect for the embattled pioneer? I know that today many of us work in the process of swinging that pendulum back, but I pray that when we do, we have the maturity to remember the lessons we learned from the margins, how power can cripple and how righteousness blinds. I hope we remain vigilant to our own fallibility and avoid the simplistic moralisms of these left-wing censorship organizations we see today. And I only end with this message of warning because I truly believe that we have a shot at winning back our voice, at winning back our freedoms. In fact, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And like those brave past opponents of tyranny, we cannot afford to fail. The British politician Enoch Powell said of another immigration crisis, "All I know is that to see and not to speak would be the great betrayal." But there is a greater betrayal than this, and it is being perpetrated by today's establishment. It knows what we see, and because we see, it is determined that we do not speak. But ladies and gentlemen, today and all other days, we shall. We shall speak in Whitehall, we shall speak at Speaker's Corner, we shall speak in Paris, we shall speak in Brussels, we shall never be silent. And ladies and gentlemen, we shall never surrender.
Wow. How great is Lauren Southern? How mad is it that she is not allowed into our country? And actually, the recording, when they arrested her, the police rang her dad, and her dad recorded the conversation. And they said she's been arrested under Section 7 of the Terrorism Act. But don't worry, we know she's not a terrorist. So you're admitting an abuse of power and law in order to stop people coming together. They know that she has the ability to make people listen. They know that. They don't want her in our country. They've done the same with Brittany Pettibone. The next character coming up, I've watched as he triggers everyone, everywhere he goes. Milo. Thank you. One's not on. Now I know what you're thinking. He's even better looking in person. It's not working, we'll just have to hold it like a pleb. Thank you. Now I may have been away for a while. I've been in America being really, really, really famous. But I haven't forgotten my roots. My hairdresser forgot my roots this morning. I haven't forgotten my roots, which is why I splashed out $4,000 on this Turnbull and Asser jacket for you. Now, I shouldn't crow about money. Some of you will have read. I've had some financial difficulties recently. See the coverage about that? It's been a very humbling experience. I like to say I'm between billionaires at the moment. No, but it's been awful. We've had to put a deposit down on the cheap Lamborghini. The Huracan, can you imagine it? Yes, so hardship is relative. And to the Gizmodo and BuzzFeed reporters asking me how I go on, I will earn more this year than you will in your entire lifetime, so go fuck yourself, sweetheart.
Now, this is lovely, but it's also very hot, so give me a second. That's all you're getting. I do need a Lamborghini, but not that much. Now, today's not really about me, like the rest of my life. Today is about you, and with that in mind, there's some serious things to say. First of all, the intrepid speakers who have come on. You've got 2 guys left to hear from today, and I'm going to introduce them at the end. The speakers today have been through some harrowing ordeals. They've been through really bad shit in their defense of free speech. Count Dankula, do you fucking mind? They've been through some really bad stuff. Convicted of mocking Nazis on the internet. Count Dankula, Tommy, who cannot go anywhere without risking being attacked. Almost everybody who you'll hear from today has risked something. I too have risked something. I flew here in economy class. I know, you don't have to tell me. Next to some corpulent, snoring mother. Gavin McInnes, fired from every company he's ever started. Even I can't claim that. Now, you've shown courage in being here. You've risked opprobrium. You've risked censure. But you're braving the ridicule and the lies. Congratulations to you. You should be proud of being here, because showing up is no mean feat in the current environment. Now, of course, none of us here is genuinely far right, or none of the speakers you're hearing from would qualify as that in my book. I'm glad you weren't put off by the name-calling in the press. For instance, I, as a gay half-Jew with a black husband, am, according to BuzzFeed, the closest thing to David Duke in journalism. I would never join the KKK. Mostly because things really don't show off your figure, and also because I'd have to get a sort of seasonal membership, since wearing white after Labor Day would get me even more ostracized from gay public life than I already am. And there's the whole I don't hate black people thing. Now, since the fake news media are here in abundance, let me address, and I hate to talk about myself, and I promise we'll get onto the good stuff in a minute, but let me address a few of the allegations, because I know it can be tough being a Milo fan sometimes. First of all, they call me an Islamophobe. Well, they couldn't be more wrong. Muslims and I have lots in common. We both think women should be never seen and never heard. We both throw massive tantrums when we don't get adequately coddled. And a Friday afternoon, I too can be found in a room full of sweaty, hairy men with my ass in the air, ululating in ecstasy. So you see, we have more in common than divides us. They say I hate women. Well, so do other women. One of the things they don't tell you when they write about this outburst, this supposed outburst of abuse and harassment on the internet, sexism in the workplace and in universities, it's all fucking women doing it. It's other girls, they forget to mention that. 9 times out of 10, when a woman is called a bitch, it's another girl doing it, or it's me. When I want to insult a woman, I do it to her face, or I do it from stage. For instance, Caroline Criado Perez is a worthless, brainless cunt. Another one they say all the time, transphobe. Well, they've got me there. I must admit it, but aren't we all really? I don't think transphobic's the best word for it, really, because I'm less scared of them than I am amused by the bad wigs and how thin-skinned they are. They call me anti-Semitic, despite the fact that my mother is Jewish, and the only thing that I say about the Jews is I think it's great we run everything. and that we can control the weather. I mean, look. Did you see that? That adorable little dreadlocked lawmaker from Chicago is currently in trouble because he got caught on video saying that the weather was manipulated by the Rothschilds. I wish someone had told me. What do you do? Can someone tell me? Are there any Jews here? Are there any Jews? Yes, plenty of Jews. Do I just do the Doctor Strange thing and wish for it? Nobody told them I was here. If only I'd known Jews had this kind of power, I'd have made it a bit cooler today. Now, perhaps we can have the protesters rained on later, although it sounds like plenty of you have been up to that already. Now, if Britain were a free country, following the lead of Trayon White, that lawmaker in Chicago, I might spend the next few minutes speculating what other races have by way of superpowers. Fuck it, I will. Perhaps the Chinese can divide by 0. It was a math joke. None of you got it. The Japanese, they look good in everything, don't they? Or whatever clothes they wear, they always seem to look fashionable and elegant, just effortless. Like Chicken Breast and Sally Burkow, they go with everything. It was a sex joke. You just didn't like that one. Black people did Wakanda. That was good. It's okay, you can laugh. My favorite tweet of all time, by the way, was from a Black Lives Matter activist who was angry that she couldn't find Wakanda on a world atlas. And she said that this was a typical example of how a white oppression erases people of color from historical narratives. It's wonderful. She hadn't been that mad since they discovered that Tutankhamun had mostly European DNA and that the rest of the pharaohs were East Asian. We was kings. Thank you. And then, of course, there's white people. White, not supposed to, thank you. This is a politically correct, Guardian-approved booing. But white people have superpowers too. There's parliamentary democracy, capitalism, the rule of law, property rights, TV and radio, cars, light bulbs, the printing press, the internet, Shakespeare, Mozart, St. Peter's Basilica, and Kate Smurthwaite. We have to admit our mistakes too. I love my white privilege, don't you? I think it's wonderful. I bask in it. My white privilege enables me to be labeled defective by the media and by celebrities because of the color of my skin. It allows me the pleasure of being told that because I'm white, I'm responsible for the sins of every white person in history, and that my life has been an effortless glide through the highest echelons of society. Well, let me tell you, it hasn't all been plain sailing. There were years we couldn't heat the pool. Ordinary people like us hate to play the victim, because we know that playing the victim is what the left does, using their confected grievances and imaginary victimhood and spinning it into social capital. But there's no shame in occasionally pointing out when you are actually the victim of something. Outrage, the word outrage, has been sort of ruined by Twitter. We associate it with lies. But outrage, properly understood, is a normal human reaction to injustice. And everybody here, by dint of what you believe, because you think that people should be able to speak freely, because you think that ideas are more important than skin color, because you like your country, you are the victims of injustice. Your supposed white privilege enables you to be actively discriminated against in university applications because your life is just so fucking great. And if you're one of the many minority members here, you are kicked and spat at, called an Uncle Tom, pathologized because you have the wrong opinions for your identity, which is arguably way worse. Have you ever heard me called self-loathing? It's only true around Christmas when I put on a few extra pounds. But really it's an attempt to pathologize. What they're trying to do is give me a disease, a brain disease. They're saying, If you believe something other than I do, you must be ill, and you must especially be sick because you're gay and you're supposed to be with us. Now, quite honestly, I don't care much about race, and I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. But talk to those boys, those white working class boys who are failing at school, whose literacy rates are through the floor, who cannot get an education or even a job, about white privilege. Talk to the young girls of Rotherham or Telford about white privilege.
I don't want to hear about those.
I, in fact, have a strictly no whites policy in common with the BBC, but mine is restricted to my bedroom. The BBC wants to roll it out across the corporation. It should and it must be okay if you are a black person who has been instructed what to believe. If you are a woman who is suspicious about this wage gap crap, and it is crap. It doesn't exist. A female Harvard economist last year tried desperately to establish the existence of the wage gap and couldn't. There's nothing wrong with occasionally drawing attention to the fact that you are, in fact, a victim of something. There's no such thing as white privilege. Mostly there's people with money and people without money. Poverty and lack of opportunity are colorblind, just like the solution to both of them, capitalism and free speech. Now, what I really care about is ideas and values. And the value we're here today to defend is the right of every man, woman, and child to say, do, and be whatever the hell they want. This is your moment. This is your Woodstock. This is the thing that nobody ever thought could happen. Thousands upon thousands of people gathering in the centre of London from all political persuasions, genders, ideologies, orientations, and skin colours. Drag queens, for fuck's sake. What are you guys doing listening to drag queens? This is the coalition the left has created. This is the coalition that the left is responsible for, and, by the way, some establishment conservatives too, by endlessly bending to their demands. Nothing is more disappointing to me than the horror of the current state of the Spectator magazine, which was the last bastion of common sense, and now publishes Matthew Paris. The elites are not going to help you. Where were the comedians in Britain when a YouTuber was threatened with imprisonment for telling a joke? Frankie Boyle's entire career is based on pissing people off, not for some higher moral purpose, but because he gets off on it. And I know what he means. Where the fuck was he? Where has the Conservative Party in this country been when people expressing ordinary right-wing points of view, respectable, reasonable opinions, have become expelled from public life, chased from the BBC, invited only on as cranks and crackpots against 3 liberals, including, of course, the host? But the people of this country are behind you. They prove it when they voted for Brexit. I don't know. Guessing by the number of flags here that most Brexit voters. But I'm willing to bet that there was a sizable portion of people who voted for Brexit without giving much of a shit about the EU, who just wanted to say, stop telling me what to do. Stop telling me how to think. I would have been one of them. The police are behind you. They can't say it. Don't look at them. Don't put them on the spot. They're ruled over by politically correct appointees who have decided that the priorities of various police forces should be scouring the internet for mean words instead of, you know, stopping systematic racially oriented gang rape. Of course, the army and the armed forces are heroes, people who fight for our freedoms while watching. Can you imagine coming home from Iraq or Afghanistan and seeing the freedoms that you have put yourself literally on the firing line to protect unravel day by day? Because conservatives who should be standing up for us, Tories and journalists who should be maintaining our freedoms, have utterly capitulated to the progressive left. No more. Most importantly, thank you, Pumpkin. Most importantly, truth and righteousness are behind you. You're the vanguard. You are the dark knights. The first men and women to proudly stand with your heads above the parapet, caring nothing for the bullets that may come your way. And for that, I salute you. Thank you. Defending free expression is not, by the way, code for permitting racism. This is not a secret plan to encourage the growth of bigotry. I don't want everyone telling horrendous jokes about racial minorities. My friend Gavin would be out of a job. Our movement is just what we say it is. A demand that ordinary, respectable, reasonable points of view are allowable in polite society and appear just a bit more often on telly. This is the refusal to accept the criminalization of comedy. Now, unlike some of you here today, I am a full-blooded free speech fundamentalist. I want Nazis on TV, not because I like them, BuzzFeed, you know which bit of the quote they're going to use, but because I believe that good ideas and bad ideas deserve to duke it out. Because I am a classical liberal, I believe J.S. Mill when he tells us that if we don't rigorously and regularly defend our ideas and our ideology, we lose them. They become dead dogmas. We don't know why we believe them anymore. And because I saw what happened when Nick Griffin went on Question Time, I saw what happened when in many instances, you know, in America, when genuine racists, people who actually think that someone should be expelled from a country or shouldn't have the vote or isn't as morally significant because of the color of their skin, and I don't know anyone like that, and I would probably have met them by now. When those people are exposed to the harsh light of day, I believe that sunlight is the best disinfectant. I want everyone, no matter what they believe, no matter how batshit feminist or unpleasantly racist they are, I want them to be heard, because that is the only way I believe that a civilized society progresses. The left can't win on arguments, so they have to win with intimidation and bullying. They have to win with other tactics, but I want people to see everybody. The more people tune in to Kathy Newman, the more guaranteed a conservative majority is forever. So yes, we're all lied about as a way of making us unpalatable and of driving us from public view, but the dam is breaking, and this is it. It's not working anymore when you say, as Tommy and Gavin and Raheem and I do, that you're a Western chauvinist, a Western supremacist. This is translated for you by the helpful members of the media as an admission of racism, but nothing could be further from the truth. You don't have to read between the lines of what we say to find out what we mean. We tell you what we mean. And the way you know that is if you ask an actual white nationalist or an actual white supremacist or an actual neo-Nazi, if there are one, they'll say, yeah. Invariably. left has a problem, I think, don't they? The establishment, the left, they have a problem with taking what people say at face value. Doesn't matter how many times or in how much detail jihadis praise Allah and say all of what they're doing is for the greater glory of their God. No, it must be toxic. Sorry, I know. I know. It must be toxic masculinity or gun control or something like that. The Pulse nightclub shooter who killed 49 gays and hurt another 50, they lied about and said he was gay. They said it was repressed self-loathing. No evidence whatsoever for that. We think the West is the best. You guys love your queen. And you don't mind that lady in Buckingham Palace either. Who the hell wouldn't be proud to be British? I mean, I wavered for a bit, but coming back here and realizing there's hope, it should be okay to say that our values are the best and that others are inferior. I don't hate anybody for their faith, even if I think that faith is structurally unsound and they're an idiot for believing it. But I should be able at least to point out the hypocrisy of liberals who say they support women and homosexuals while at the same time mollycoddling and pandering to a belief system that wants me dead. The world does not conform to the universe painted by The Guardian and the BBC. I don't know how much black dick I have to suck before BuzzFeed stops calling me a white nationalist. I think the answer is a lot more. Happy to. But do you know why they lie at you? They lie to you, rather, about you, lie in general. And then I must go because I'm running late, I'm sorry. They lie about you because they're afraid. They lie about you because they're scared. They lie about you because they know they're about to lose. They're like a dog in the corner of a room, close to death, almost kicked to death. That's when they're the most vicious. That's when they're the most dangerous. That's when they resort to violence and nothing else. Batik the left today, they know they're about to lose. And the next 30 years is going to be a glorious, shitlord-filled explosion of political incorrectness. It is going to be a bright, beautiful, fabulous future of people saying what they actually believe instead of what they're supposed to. They are afraid of us, and they should be. These sexless soy boy bloggers, frumpy, cat-drenched, piss-stained, cardigan-wearing lesbians. In a future imagined by BuzzFeed, it is not The Handmaid's Tale with women swinging from these buildings. It is you. And we cannot allow it. If we lose Europe, we lose everything. Some politicians are getting our message. At the end of this month, I'm going at the invitation of the Orbán government to speak in Budapest in Hungary. Any politician, I'm being dragged off. Any politician brave or stupid enough to invite me is clearly seen what the rest of us have seen. Be what you want, do what you want, say what you want, and never lose your conscience. Always stand by your principles, and they will crumble. Thank you very much. God bless, thank you. And now allow me to introduce a man who learned everything from me. No, I'm just kidding. It is the indefatigable and awesome, and you should have seen that Sky clip of him. He's incredible. He is your greatest defender in British media. Very proud to call him a friend. Please welcome Raheem Kassam.
All right, we're going to keep it brief. You guys have been here a long time, and we're so grateful. By the way, Milo was great. I love a good fag break. Come on. All right, come on. We're all waiting for Tommy, aren't we? Are you going to sing it or what? Tommy Robinson. All right. By the way, that sounds a lot better than the Jeremy Corbyn dirge that they sing at Momentum rallies, right? Okay, so look, I'm going to be very, very brief with you guys. I'm supposed to be on for a little bit longer, but I know you're waiting to hear from Tommy. We also got to get out of here because I know the police, they've worked hard all day. They want to get home too. I want to say thank you to all of them. And by the way, Thank you to all our great servicemen and women out there who have defended this country. Say thank you. By the way, can we also, I want a round of applause for the Antifa protesters and the media who came out today, because you know what? They're exercising their freedom of speech too. And I think we say, hey, great, good for you, let's go. Let's have the arguments. Let's do it. Let's have the arguments, because we can win the arguments. We are winning the arguments here today. And let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. There is a political establishment out there right now who are trying to debase every single element of your personhood. They are trying to debase your currency. They are trying to debase your citizenship. And as we've seen recently with the Facebook scandals and all that, they are now trying to debase your online personas. They own you. They think they own you. But do they own you? No! Say it so Teresa can hear it. No! Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to introduce the man behind all of this. Look, without these organisers, Kaylin, George, Lucy, none of this would have been possible. But none of this especially would have been possible without the great Tommy Robinson!
It's making me emotional, man. I'll stand up here and cry in a minute. Can I just say what an unbelievable feeling it is to know that I have the support? It's an immense feeling. And I know that it's such that everything they've tried, everything they're doing, everything the people sitting in there are tarnishing us, slandering us, trying to silence us. And I know by the reaction I get when I travel the country that the people are not listening to them, that the people are supporting us. The people of this country have been silenced for 20 to 30 years with the tag of racist. They have managed to silence people so they're too scared to speak up when they see things that are wrong. They're too scared to tell the truth and identify problems with an ideology and a religion in our country because they're worried about being called racist. They now realise that that tag is dead. No one cares anymore when we're being labelled as a racist. So they've now introduced their new term, hate speech. What is hate speech? There's a 16-year-old boy somewhere in here. I'm going to interview him next week. He went to Speaker's Corner and he debated Ali Dawah. And he stated facts about Islam. He was visited last week by counter-terrorism officials as part of the Prevent strategy. His mother was in pieces, crying, scared, worried. The justification the police gave for coming and visiting him, they asked him questions. Would you kill for your ideology? He has said nothing extreme, nothing wrong, and nothing non-factual. But the police are visiting him. There's another man up in Burnley, up north as well, who this has happened to. The reason the police gave for visiting him is because they didn't like his opinions on Islam. This is currently what our country's facing. When you hear statistics and they say that 30% of all Prevent strategy is now non-Muslims, that's not and again, visits from counter-terrorism, for telling the truth, for identifying facts. I had a 14-year-old boy in the north of England who had a mental breakdown because of the visits from Prevent, because he said that Islam was a fascist, violent ideology. These scare tactics, and I'll tell you what, it works. I'm in a group message with this young lad, and there's loads of young lads who are representatives of different football clubs in the country, who are youth, who are 16 to 18 years old. So one boy tells the truth about Islam at Speaker's Corner, and then everyone else sees that counter-terrorism have visited him. That has a knock-on effect. People become scared. People are terrified to identify and speak openly and honestly. We've just seen that my Twitter account was removed for hate. The hate, one of the things that they suspended me for, I said 90% of grooming gang convictions are Muslim men. That is a fact. That is not hate. 20% of them are called Mohammed. But what they removed my Twitter account for was for saying Islam promotes killing people. It does. 100 verses in the Quran incite them to kill. Again, it was a fact. Now, when you see the news reports, this is where we can't be fooled. Our government, there's been 10,000 Twitter accounts closed at the request of government for hate. There's been 140 Twitter accounts closed for terrorism. Hamas are a prescribed terrorist organisation. They have a Twitter account. Hezbollah are a prescribed terrorist organisation. They have a Twitter account. So this is not about rules or regulations or breaching any of their rules. This is about silencing and stopping. Silencing people like me. Milo had his Twitter account closed. Sargon had his Twitter account closed. Where we're heading in a few years' time, Facebook, YouTube will all remove our views. And if we're to do anything about it, and it has to be so, there's a video of Yvette Cooper, a Labour politician. She's sitting down with the CEOs of YouTube talking about why my videos are being promoted. This is government interference with private companies to remove certain people's views, which is fascism. Now, Twitter are a private company, so they can remove you if they want. What I want to do is I'm going to take Twitter to court. I'm going to take them to court for discrimination against my physiological beliefs, my deep-held beliefs. And I won't get my Twitter account back, but what we'll be able to prove, which needs proving, we need to prove what hate is. We need to prove that facts are now seen as hate. The government are pushing this agenda with private companies. triggered about my Twitter account still. I deleted my life to concentrate on Twitter. We all will be there. That's what people need to understand. This is the start. Everyone will be removed. All our views will be removed. On the other hand, you have Muslim organisations, you have terrorist groups, you have far left radical groups who aren't being censored. It's certain political opinions are being censored. Also, I've been standing here in the shade. You must have all been boiling here all day. I want to thank you all for your patience as well. I want to do something quickly as well in the middle of the speech. Kaylin, George, Lucy, can you come up here? I'll be honest, you see all this, you see the organisation for all this, the videos. None of this, and the people were thanking me, I had loads of people coming up saying thank you for the day. I didn't do anything, that's the truth. They done it all. We have, for years, the media, is the mainstream media here? The great thing is no one trusts them. No one's reading them, no one's listening to them. Who watches the news? People are now searching for their alternative media. And that's what we want to do. And with the team, we want to bring people real stories. I've got a story that's going to be coming out hopefully next week. 3 young boys were run over. I'm going to get emotional. I spent a week looking at the case of the murder of their children.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for Tommy for having the balls to report on our story, because no one else has. We're speaking about Josh, Harry and George, who were murdered in Shepperdston Lane, Hayes. And this has been covered up by the Met Police and the CPS. Exactly, thank you. We're speaking out because we're not afraid to speak out. We went to Speaker's Corner last Saturday. A Royal Park officer came straight up to me and asked me if I was the organiser of the event. I said, we're just here to speak out about our children. We had this flag. He told me this flag and our balloons could be offensive to certain people. I said, offensive to who? That I'm in Britain, they're not offensive to me, are they? Is that offensive to you? No! No. Are they going to be waving British flags at the royal wedding? Yes! Exactly. So amongst us, we have 35,000 people who hate us, who want to hurt us, who want to kill us. Our poor children has become part of that now. And Theresa May, if you can hear me, if you don't have the guts or the balls to get rid of them, stick me in 10 Downing Street, because I'll do it for you. We are not afraid. So thank you again to Tommy for letting us up here and saying our little bit for now. The video's going to come out and you can see more. We don't just want justice for Josh, Harry and George, we want justice for every British person. We've had enough.
This video, when you see the story come out, you'll see how disgustingly these families have been treated. You'll see that getting emotional even thinking about it, man. I spent a week crying over their case. You'll see it next week.
Go on, Tommy!
People have come here from all over the country. People have made this possible. I know you've all had a long day. Many of you have spent your money, you've travelled from far. There's different organisations, different groups of people that have come. I want to bring one of the lads up now, Justin. He's a I see the Proud Boys, I was with them last night. Justin from the Democratic Football Lads Alliance, just to say a few words to say thank you to everyone who's come on their part.
Can I start by welcoming everyone to London? Every football fan from all over Britain, our brothers, the veterans, and every single one of you who've made the effort to stand up and be counted today. History will look kindly on you. In years to come, people will look back and ask, why didn't we listen to them sooner? We are all taking part in a race against time. Our goal is to educate people before it's too late. Our opposition are those who seek to suffocate freedom of speech. Since 1979, Saudi Arabia have been buying our oxygen, our media, telling us all what to think. The prejudicial bias that runs through our mainstream media, coupled with a perverse political correctness, is a cancer that is spreading through our society. Yes. This disease allows the paid-off councils, CPS, police and government to trouser their backhanders, while our children are brainwashed, raped and killed. Successive governments have depleted and neglected our armed forces. Over 7,000 veterans sleep rough on the streets of Britain every day. Our border agency is not fit for purpose. All are welcome to the promised land. Last one in, close the gate behind you. And you don't see any of them sleeping rough. We are a divided nation, the haves and the have-nots, injustice at every corner. Our police stand guard with guns, doing a job that by rights the army should be doing, while our towns and cities are lawless. Telford, Rochdale, Rotherham, Oxford, Newcastle, Manchester, Glasgow, the list goes on. And we're here today to demand a national inquiry into what is happening with these grooming towns and what is happening to the millions of children being raped in this country by racists. Private security firms police our communities, doing jobs we pay our police to do. What price do our corrupt councils put on our children's lives? I look out here today and I can see thousands of people who you can't be bought. You all need to come to Manchester on the 2nd of June, because our children's lives may very well depend on it. We're the DFLA, and together, all of us here, together, are stronger. Ladies and gentlemen, get home safely.
Now, the country I thought I lived in prior to 2009, and the freedoms I thought we had, and the learning curve I've gone on since 2009, we live in a post-free speech era. There's no pretending it. We don't have free speech. Everyone talks about free speech. We have no right to free speech in the UK. Does anyone really feel free saying their opinions? Do they feel free with your bosses at work? Most people have to hide the fact that they even come to these demonstrations. That's not freedom. We should be free to criticise whatever we want. We're being lied to, we're being deceived. When you go back through British history, you go back through British leaders, you go back through our clergy, our military leaders, our politicians, Sir William Gladstone, Winston Churchill, they always told the truth about Islam. The truth that Islam is a warlike religion. It is fascist, it is violent. Only in the last 30, 40 years are we being fed a lie. You know the term, Islam is a religion of peace? You try and find that in the history books. You won't find that term. That was brought out after September 11th when George Bush lied to the world. Never before have people been deceived so bad. We have let an ideology into our country to gain control of towns and cities, to infiltrate our government, to run as mayors in our capital city. All under the guise and the lie. They're taking our children to mosques. They're in the education system. They're lying. And when it turns, because it will turn in Europe, it will turn in England, and when it will turn so quick that everyone will start speaking openly and honestly. Everyone will identify the problem with it. If you look at Austria, since Austria elected a right-wing government, a government who identify Islam as a problem, the major celebrities and singers in that country are all now telling the truth about Islam. We know what people think. We know people are aware of the problem, but no one says it. And if I say one message to everyone, they start small. Everyone tell the truth. Speak openly, speak honestly. Speak about Islam. I know you've all had a long day, and I want to thank every single one of you for travelling here. It's been a beautiful day, and do you know what? I thought I'd take massive satisfaction. We couldn't have done this 3 years ago. We couldn't have done this 4 years ago. We're now mainstream. The public support us. The lies, they don't believe the lies they're saying. So a personal thank you from me to every single one of you. You've made me. You know when I stood up on this stage earlier, and you're all singing my name, it's an amazing feeling. I know you've all got your British flags out, yeah? I now want to invite all the speakers from today to come up on the stage. Can all the speakers come up today? And Heidi? We just want to... And I'll say it again one more time. I want to thank George, Kaylin and Lucy, because I had some family issues over the last 2 weeks. My head was not on this at all, and this wouldn't have happened without them. And we want to end this now, because that is such a sight. What a beautiful sight. We want to end this on our national anthem.
Are we ready? God save our gracious Queen, long live our noble Queen. God save the Queen. Says the victorious, happy and glorious.
send a message today to the government that people will no longer be silent. We're partying outside Theresa May's house. Brilliant. We've got
Yeah, where is it?
Come and speak to Luke from Make Britain Great Again. Where's Raheem?
Oh, I don't even know.
Judges out.
So I tell them to email you.
Oh shit, I just got up on that. Being friendly. Should I go say hi?
Say hello to him. Just say you all know. Say he was on the video. Let's get our shit together.
Hello. Hello, nice to meet you.
How are you?
Actually, I'm coming to the dinner. I'm coming to you guys.
Oh yeah, we'll be. Yeah.
Can I grab into you or are you a bit busy?
Can we do it at dinner? Is that alright? Or we have to do it here?
Yeah, I've got.
Who is it for?
Oh, well, just my YouTube channel.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, you put an article on your website or someone did a while ago. I was the girl who had trusted you. It's basically trying to say what you say something. So I got sick of this shit, so I'm now involved in this, yeah. Okay, we've got Milo.
They're gonna drag me away any second, so let's go.
Okay.
Good to go.
Guys, we're here with Milo. He needs no instructions. So your speech was absolutely fantastic. Very long, but I was hooked on
No, I'm
something.
sorry. I always run long. Some of my college speeches are like 3 hours, and people say they like them, so I just never know when to stop. I'm sorry.
It was fantastic. Okay, so I think you covered a lot of this in your speech, but why is free speech important to you, and why did you fly all the way from America?
In coach, in economy. Look, it's the underpinning principle of our civilization. Without being able to discuss values and ideas, you can't organize yourself, the state, like the press, nothing. I just watched as the reality that I know to be true and the reality that's described on newspapers and you know, in newspapers on the TV have just diverged like wildly, and it's happened within the last decade. And if I can do something to help with that, then I think I'd like to.
This is almost a stupid question. What have your experiences been with Antifa and people shutting your free speech down? Other than, you know, the obvious, like, people stopping your speeches at college campuses, have you had any, like, run-ins with the law, family, friends? Like, what have your experiences been of that?
Well, law enforcement are all fans of mine, you know, like the armed forces are, but it's difficult for me now in most major American cities to just go out for brunch. You know, I get chased out of places.
Oh yeah, what happened with that?
Yeah, I get chased out of places, called a Nazi just for being like, you know, in a group of gay guys who just want to go for brunch. It's kind of wild, and it's wild because the media's allowed certain individuals to be described as white nationalists, Nazis, all they've been active participants in that, and it's the most insane thing. I'm in bed, like, with my black husband, and I'm showing him the and I'm showing him these headlines, and I'm saying, look at this, baby, and he's like, oh my God. You know, like, it's funny to us, but it also has made my life very expensive and very complicated.
Right, yesterday, this might be the best story ever. I was out shopping for a dress for tonight, and I see this pro-Palestine protest, so I run off and go over. I end up speaking to this anarchist, and he calls Tommy Robinson a neo-Nazi. I say, what do you think of Milo? I said, do you think he's racist? He said, yeah. I said, do you think he hates black people? He said, yeah. I said, but his husband's black. He said, yeah, I know. I said, so if he's having sex with a black man, how can he hate them? And he said, you don't have to be, you can still be racist and have sex and date a person of that race. So you still hate black people.
If it doesn't persuade you that I'm not a racist, given that I not just have married and have sex with, but love a black man, like if I can give my heart to somebody, if I can spend my life and like cherish and revere and honor and love somebody of a different race, if that doesn't persuade you that I'm not a racist, nothing will, so I give up, so go fuck yourself. You know, like, I'm not interested. I'm not interested.
No, I couldn't cope after that.
If that doesn't persuade you, there's no point, there's no point wasting my time on it.
No, I kind of gave up on him after that. So, obviously, we're having events like this now. I think it's, how many people were here, like 30,000?
I don't even know. It was amazing. I didn't realize Britain had it in her.
Well, neither did I, but I'm proud of us. We've done well. Where do you see, like, the future going for this country? You think it's positive, negative? I'm hoping you're going to say positive.
Yeah, well, hope away, because I think it's basically fucked. But if we can arrest the decline a bit, at least that'd be something. I don't know. I mean, stuff like this, you know, makes me hopeful. Or at least makes me happy that there's a rump of people who get it. But is it going to make a difference to the way that the BBC reports? Is it going to make a difference to the way that we're governed? Is it going to make a difference to anything really? I mean, I hope so. We can only hope. I think that big protests like this and kind of mass civil disobedience is the only way now, because reason and logic and politeness have failed.
How would you contrast it with America? I mean, I'm hearing Americans say, I've never been to America, I don't really know any Americans. Obviously, they've got the amendments that protect them, but I'm hearing that that's not even putting it recently. Like, how do you?
In America, it's private companies who are doing the bad stuff. So in America, it's like major corporations and Twitter and other Americans censoring each other, you know, and the press and all the rest of it. So it's not the government doing it. It's a different problem. Here, it's, you know, the government's putting people in prison for being offensive on the internet, for mean words on the internet. You don't get that in America, but, you know, some of what you get is arguably just as bad. And it's certainly on a larger scale, and it's certainly much crazier. There's a deeply entrenched, you know, fringe on the left in America, which is growing, and it's radical, and it believes completely insane things. And they seem to have occupied all the positions of power in civil society, and that's very scary.
It's interesting what you say about the police, because I've been having a lot of problems with the police recently. Not because I've done anything wrong.
Lovely, look at you. I can't imagine you having.
So cute looking.
I know. I can't imagine you getting in trouble for anything.
Essentially, well.
So boys,
I was
maybe.
getting death threats off Islamists. They were saying, "Oh, I'm going to fucking kill you when I find you and break your dead body."
Yes.
So I was like, "Okay, I'm going to go to the police." So I did, and they said, "Yeah, we're not going to help you because you're inciting racial hatred." And they basically said that they could arrest me because I'm committing a criminal offence. Yes. Inciting racial hatred. I was like, I've dated Asian girls. They were like, still inciting racial hatred.
Yeah.
And yeah, they just refused to help me.
Well,
there's a
reason that one particular religion sort of was hanging heavy in the air today, and that so many of the speakers mentioned it, and it's because people do have discerned that there seems to be a double standard. There seems to be an exception made for one particular religion, and nobody can really work out why, because it's the worst one of all. It's the one that, it's the one that nobody, no rational person, nobody who cares about women or minorities or people who are both, could possibly defend.
They don't even hide it anymore. Like, I went into the police station when I was trying to follow all this stuff up, and it wasn't a police officer, but it was like a desk sergeant, and he went, "Oh well, you could have avoided this by not criticising certain religions." So I got triggered, and I just got triggered, and I just went off on one. And I said, "Would you say that to me if I said these things about Christianity?" He went, "No, of course not. You've got freedom of speech." I was like, "Oh my God."
Well, it gives you as much as I love the police who are on the beat out there doing things. Some of the people who work in the more desk jobs, certainly some of the people who work in like the CPS, and a lot of the people in the higher ranks of the police forces, because they're political appointees, are not good news. Thank you so much. Thank you.
It's lovely speaking to you. I'll see you later anyway.
Thank you so much.
See you in a bit.
I'm not saying
Oh, have you sent me an email? Okay.
Fake 10.
Oh my God, I love it. I need to. There you are.
I was trying to get his mate. What did you want now?
Raheem and Tommy. I feel sorry for Milo because he doesn't actually want to be doing interviews because I've drafted him out.
He's bossed it though on that one. Really good, really nice. And I nailed focus as well.
Do I look okay? Yeah. Okay. So happy I got that interview. I was buzzing the entire time. I love him. Found Sargon, but we've done Sargon. Hello.
God's Fire.
What, sorry?
God's Fire, the channel.
Oh, yeah, I know you. Yeah.
Just thought I'd say hello.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's good here.
I don't suppose you've seen Raheem Kassam or Tommy, have you?
Who?
Raheem or Tommy.
Tommy got in the car, so...
Oh, okay.
It's gone. I don't know about him. I've got to go now anyway. But it's nice to meet you, isn't it?
Yeah, you too. Raheem might not be around either of them. I'll ask Lucy. Lucy?
Can we fill a bus?
Is Raheem still about, or has he gone? Huh? Is Raheem gone?
I have no idea, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to organise transport for Milo, but it looks like Tommy's car might have gone.
Yeah, Tommy's car has gone. Let me go see what else is
Can we
left.
see if we can get him in our car if all those fails? We might have to.
Okay, we're gonna try and have one last look for a few people when Milo's getting swarmed.
If we can get Tommy last.
Tommy's not here. He's gone. I'll interview him on my camera later or tomorrow. I'll just ask him.
What you want to do, it's so hard to adjust that volume to get the hiss. I did an alright job on that one with Dankula, but that was really hard.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what I...
What are you doing? Oh, nice to meet you.
Hi.
Yeah.
How are you?
You had a good day?
Yeah.
Had a good day. I'm very tired though. My legs are in pain.
My feet are killing me, man. I know well trainers. I like your trainers.
Oh, thank you. I went and bought loads of new stuff yesterday. I was like, I need to buy new clothes, so I used it as an excuse. Oh, when I said to Milo, I'm the girl who had the problem with university and they tried to take my place off, and he was like, oh yeah, I know who you are now. He remembered me.
Yeah, that was a really nice interview and it looks good as well.
Yes,
fantastic.
I've watched some of your stuff online, really, it's interesting.
Nice to
really
meet
nice.
you.
From
Thank you.
North Manchester. All that.
Speak you.
I
Okay.
contacted you on Twitter a while ago.
I might not have seen it.
Yeah, or you might have thought I was a wind-up because I'm sure you get a lot of it. Have you sorted out your technical issues with your email?
Yes, I just need to get a new laptop and then look at Milo go, bless him.
Can we shut off the screen now?
Let's just go see what's going on down
Sorry,
here.
I was going to mention, I've got a really interesting story that I want to get out.
Oh, okay.
Do you do journalist interviews and things
yes,
like that?
Yes, I do.
Can you just write your email address?
Sure.
And then I'll get in touch with you by email. Fascinating story.
I'll be mooching.
Sorry, I'll have to
So what is that?
I might
It's
lose it.
info at?
Janea.co.uk. It's on my YouTube
I'll get in
channel.
touch with you. Cheers, thanks.
Hey, you are. Sorry, I just interviewed Milo.
You got it.
Yeah. But I don't think Raheem's there. I was hoping to get a proper interview with Gavin because all I got is that. Oh, were you there before when I had that awkward moment with Gavin? Yeah. I didn't know what to say. I was like, "What's he doing?" No, Gavin was over here.
Because you've got to head off now, haven't you? What time? How are you getting away? Because I'm going to trundle soon.
Okay, let's go back this direction. Okay, yeah, I think.
Pack down quickly.
Yeah, I think we're probably good to end.
Where are you going for a drink later?
Oh, I'm going with Caitlin and Tommy and everyone.
Oh, somewhere.
Yeah. Sorry.
You probably don't remember. I got you the car.
I do remember you actually. Good to see you. I was just thinking you look familiar. Have you had a good day?
Yeah, amazing, amazing.
My mum always talks about you and your girlfriend, wife.
Yeah, she stayed at home today, but I've just come down.
Yeah, she always speaks about you. She's like, oh, I remember them. They were so nice and made me feel so comfortable.
She's asking, I phoned her before and she's like, it's the engineer, yeah.
Oh, bless her.
Janae's going to Hotel Neil or something.
Yeah, Tommy's booked the hotel. I feel like I should stay by the car just because.